Well, running late again, so let's go ahead and get started on my fantasy playlist of July 25th, 2004, up to number 16. Down from 14 the previous week. It was a comeback record of sorts for Liz Phair. Extraordinary. It's a great rock and roll, sort of a grungy sounding record. I mean that in a good way. Very melodic record. Boy, Liz Phair. I almost fell in love with Liz Phair. Back in 1994, well, first off, she's from Connecticut, and she signed a deal with an independent record label called Matador. This was in the early 90s. She released her first album called Exile and Guyfield. This was in 1993. And she was part of the so-called girly sound. I'm not exactly sure what that means. But she did come out around the same time as, say, like Tanya Donnelly, the lead singer of Belly. There was Bjork, although Bjork was a completely another genre. She was formerly with the Sugar Cubes. Alanis Morissette, but Alanis Morissette didn't come around until 1995, her first breakthrough hit in 1995. Juliana Hatfield, another one along that same line. Juliana Hatfield, Spin the Bottle, Universal Heartbeat, those lovely records she did, and Liz Phair came around at that same time. Her second album, though, was The Charm, as far as I'm concerned. It sold about 400,000 copies by 2010, and I wrote down the name of the album as Whip Smart, I believe was the name of the album. She had Supernova. That was the first time I ever heard of Liz Phair. Absolutely was wild by that record. I'm trying to remember, back around the summer, fall, spring of 1994, maybe early 95, Liz Phair. And then she just seemed like she just kind of disappeared. Maybe a couple of minor things after that. And then she came roaring right back in 2004 with this new album. I believe the new album itself, the album she came out with in 2004 is self-titled. But let me bring that up for you real quick and see if I can confirm that. I believe it was, yeah, Liz Phair, the name of the album, 2004. Now, here's the thing. She worked with Michael Penn initially. Michael Penn, who had that song No Myth, followed 1990, this and that, early 1991, and of course was brilliant Seen the Doctor, late 92, early 1993. That was the headline record. But the finished product, after she was done with Michael Penn, the executives at Capitol Records were like, no, there's no singles on this album. They hooked, and here's the deal: they ran out of money. Liz Phair, she ran out of money. The recording budget was just tapped out. The head of Capitol Records, his name was Andy Slater. He told her, "Look, I tell you what, I'll give you some more money to record this album or re-record this album on one condition: that you work with these top 40 producers. They're called the Matrix. They've worked wonders with Avril Lavigne, Hilary Duff. They've worked with Britney Spears, the group Busted out of England, producing slick records by them. They could do the same for you. And I'll give you some more money if you do that, if you work with the Matrix." That's what happened. And the Matrix, what they were looking for was basically songs that had potential to be singles. And they worked with Liz Phair. There was four singles of Why Can't I remember that from 2003. There was Rock Me, and the song Extraordinary, just fantastic record. Sounds a little bit like an old Matthew Sweet song like Girlfriend back in 1992. Or maybe a little bit of Weezer thrown in for good measure on this record. Liz Phair, but the critics were harsh. A lot of the critics were mixed. There were some harsh criticisms. A lot of her fans were disappointed. A lot of her fans thought, hey, she sold out. She worked with these top 40 producers and she just sold out to the gods of crass commercialism. Here's what one critic said. Let me bring that up for you real quick. I believe it was with Pitchfork, but I'm not really sure. Pitchfork Media gave the album Liz Phair 0.0. And a critic off of Pitchfork said, "It's sad that an artist as groundbreaking as Phair would be reduced to cheap publicity stunts and hyper-commercialized teen pop." That's a little too harsh. I think that's way too harsh. I think she remained true. This song is not really that much different from Supernova, although Supernova had probably a little bit more of an alternative feel than uh, than Extraordinary. God, but still, I tell you what, it's a good song. It's a good song. Why Can't I was another good song too off the album. I'm all for Liz Phair on this record. Extraordinary. by Liz Phair at number 16 on my fantasy playlist of July 25th, 2004.